Yeah, thank you. It's recording.
Okay. Okay, good. So, as Sandeep mentioned, my name is Frank Doyle. I'm a researcher with the Technical University of Shannon, and I work in the IDM Research Centre. So, we have a lot of experience working with small, medium-sized enterprises, as well as multinationals in the area of digitalization of manufacturing, with the aim of increasing optimization, either of individual machining processes or production lines. And today I'm speaking about digital maturity indexes, how digital maturity indexes can be arrived at, and the value of them. So when we look at digital transformation as applied in the industrial context, we're talking about Industry 4.0. Is this where we have cyber physical systems that are used to connect processes, people, machines, and products to each other. So we have operational technology systems, PLCs, SCADA systems, and these are used to control equipment. And at the same time, we have in our IT, the informational technology side of things, we have the IT side controls data. And there's the connection then of both of these. So connecting machines and IoT systems end up collecting a large volume of data, which can inform maintenance, performance, and other issues. The analysis of that data can then identify patterns and insights, which would be impossible for a human to do in a reasonable time frame. And Industry 4.0, this connection of IT and OT systems offers the opportunity for manufacturers to optimize their operations quickly and efficiently by knowing what needs attention. So what's happening and where should best focus be put? So that is our digitalization transformation. But before we get to there, we have to have a digitalization strategy. So studies have shown that companies and enterprises with higher digital maturity and superior corporate performance. So companies that have their systems well connected digitally can operate a lot better than ones that don't. However, there are several challenges that companies need to overcome to be successful in a digitalization strategy. And first of all, really is the leadership. So if the leadership at the top of a company isn't fully supporting a digitalization strategy, there will be difficulty in creating the urgency, the vision, and the direction for the digital transformation within a particular project or area or throughout the whole company. Then within the organization or institution itself, there can be resistance to change in the form of attitudes of older employees. Legacy technology may restrict the ability to collect data, and innovation fatigue and politics. So these are different ways where trying to apply a digitalization strategy may be hindered. And then within the organization itself, is there enough knowledge? So the available skills and competence, if these are lacking, then the digitalization strategy will be hampered. It'll be slowed down. And then the digital maturity index is really just a snapshot of where an organization is at a particular point in time. So typically these digital maturity indexes are numerical values in a form of a percentage or scale values, which give a relative idea of where an organization is with regard to different pillars regarding their digital data ability to collect data and work with it. It can have bias, subjectivity, and requires a certain level of expertise in order to understand how to apply the maturity numerical values. The index itself then can be used to drive engagement and prioritize actions, and is best viewed over time. So it's important to come back and do the assessment as time changes, just to see where have improvements been made and where are there still gaps. The assessment needs to be followed by a more detailed implementation plan where gaps are identified. Work can be carried out to improve digitalization in a particular area. However, it may be the case that better value is gained in different areas. So where the work will be carried out after in the implementation side will depend on the organization and business needs. So the typical digital maturity index, there are two approaches to calculating this. So there are many online self-assessment tools that are available, and these are based on questionnaires where somebody can sit down over the course of 5 minutes to half an hour or more and answer questions and be presented with a result. And then there are more expert-led, customized approaches where over site visits and meeting with management, operators, and staff within the factory itself, that a longer, deeper analysis can be carried out. Okay. Then within the digital maturity itself, there are 5 main stages that have been identified. So where we see defined, organized, integrated, optimized, and digital. So these are different levels of categorization of how data within the organization is either captured, stored, managed, and analyzed. And depending on the level of digital maturity, the value being got from the data will be different. So at the higher levels where you go beyond integrated, optimized, and digital, there is much more value being gotten for the organization from the data that is available throughout its production process. And then examples of where the digital maturity is visible is in operations, customer centricity, and governance. So the capture and analysis of data can guide operations, customer centricity, and governance by having up-to-date data, KPIs available for decision making. Then when we look and search for digital maturity index assessment tools, there are many which have been created over the last 4 to 6 years, and even beyond that. And this here is a list of some of the tools which we have looked at and found useful. These have been developed by research centers in some cases, as well as universities and large organizations, as well as the European, the EEC. So one that we're looking at here now is the digital maturity assessment tool called DMAT, developed in Denmark. There they analyzed, they presented the results of an assessment of over 500 enterprises. And the results then can be seen on the pie chart here. So these are the 6 main, what are called pillars. Then on each of the corners can be examined, and you can see here in the blue color would be the particular result for the company that has just done the digital maturity assessment. And that then can be compared against the average for other companies within that sector. So let's say with culture, you can see with this company, there was a slightly stronger culture focused result from the digital point of view than with the average industry, but from the strategy, it was a little bit lower. So this helps to focus what direction a company could go in with a digitalization project. Okay, here's another example then from Portugal, looking at how innovation and change management can be improved, and excuse me, the digitalization aspect of that, where vision, objectives, talent, culture, leadership, all of these topics are examined from a digital point of view, and then as the data is captured and processed, and it progresses through the organization from the preparation, so how assets are managed, through operations and processes, to the execution of production, to where products and services reach the customer. So this tool developed by the Technological and Holistic Engagement for Industry 4.0 assessment tool from TIA in Portugal was used in this direction. Fraunhofer then have also developed a tool. In this case, they have what they call dimensions, similar to the pillars from the Danish one. But in this case, they have 7 pillars. And here we see that in this case, the employees and competencies, technology, products and services in this area had a stronger result than corporate strategy, leadership, or supply chain and networks. So the assessment of the digital maturity of an organization will show results like this, which allow the company then to organize, to help guide how the company can improve its digital maturity index in areas where it's weak. There is this Change to Twin is a project that was funded by the European Union, and this was a project where companies were funded to have a digital maturity assessment carried out over 4 to 6 weeks, where site visits were carried out and meetings were held with product management, company management, and the operational staff, with the aim of getting a deeper knowledge of the digitalization of the organization. And here we see there are 7 excuse me, different levels of digitalization. So initially we're looking here where there are at manual work, where there are 0 or very, very low digitalization tools to capture data within the organization. The next level up then is computerization, where basic IT systems are in use, but in isolation. So here we may see data silos. The third one then is connectivity. So the IT systems and OT systems, the operational technology systems on the factory floor, may have slightly better connectivity. There's data exchange between systems and business applications. So the data coming from the factory floor is helping to guide tools, so ERP systems, and help run the business. So these then would be considered digitalization, the first 3 stages here, but the latter 4 then would be stages where you would be saying, if an organization is in the latter 4 stages here, that's starting to become a smart industry. So under monitoring, we would see real-time information about the business processes through sensors. And in this case, sensors can mean data being streamed from machines, or different processes throughout the production process. Excuse me. So as the products are making their way through the production process, information about the systems that create the product are available for decision making. And this can help, for example, with maintenance. So the next step up then is understanding. So insight into business processes is available through data analysis. So the data that's coming in from the system floor, from the production floor, is then being analyzed to guide real-time activity within the production area. With predictive capacity, simulations, it's possible to run simulations to understand unwanted future scenarios and to prevent unwanted future scenarios. So the idea here is if enough information is available on machines and systems, it should be possible to simulate what happens in various parameters or configurations, and therefore to identify where maybe shortages of raw materials may occur, and future planning can be done of ordering as well as preventative maintenance. And then in the last stage, we've got adaptability. So here there is continuous adaptation and automated actions of the production, the business, all based on live data coming in from the floor, from the business, from customer interactions, and being fed through systems that identify risk and generate guidance to help smooth running of the organization. So here is an example then of the output of the change to twin assessment. So we have a dashboard here. On the top left corner, we see the current position of the company. So in this case, there was a fictitious company here, and it was at a digitalization level of 2. So it had some data being collected, but it wasn't fully automated. It wasn't fully integrated either. Then the digital transformation in this stage here. So the tool, the change to twin assessment tool, is focused on guiding the company to generate to develop digital transformation in the areas that will bring the most business benefit. So there's no point, excuse me, in developing a digitalization, rolling out a project if that project isn't going to bring immediate productivity or business value for the organization. So the tool here in this case had ranked the different transformations that would bring the most value for that organization. So in this case, digital factory, digital value chains, and advanced manufacturing were the top 3 transformations suggested by the tool.
Yeah, sorry, Frank, just a second. There is one attendant who says that he's not able to see the presentation. May I request anybody else to kindly confirm if they can see the shared screen, because I'm able to see from here. Thanks, Maria.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
But for one person, not.
Yeah, I'll contact him. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Please continue. Thank you.
Okay, and then in the top corner here, there was so the vision, the goal by the organization from a digitalization point of view for their organization. So here was the initial digitalization level of 2, and there was an aim to bring it above 3, closer to 4. And then the digital twinning relevance, the aim here was to create a digital twin of some element of the organization. And this could be a digital twin of a machine, a process or a production area. And the idea here would be if a particular digital transformation was done and using a digital twin, how relevant was that to the company's future ambitions? So here it was saying the particular choice would have been high, and the most relevant purpose would be optimization and best quality, so improving quality of the process and production products themselves. So yeah, the change to twin tool is gives quite a deep dive into the digitalization current situation for an organization, looks at what best digitalization transformations or projects to work on to improve its capability for the future. Okay, and then just looking at some some other tools. There's an EU digital maturity assessment tool, which is basically done online. It's a questionnaire towards industry, and it's split into 6 different pillars. So there's the digital strategy and business model. So yeah, it's examining different elements of the business. So from the business model, digital readiness, how connected are systems? Is there a level of automation within the business? Is there green digitalization focus, and the human-centric element of digitalization as well? So there are different sets of questions under each of these pillars, where more focus can be put from a digital point of view on these different aspects of how a business is organized and run. And then, yeah, so again, the output of these tools are going to be numerical in many ways, but the visual output helps get an appreciation of how an organization is set up from a digital point of view, and how that might differ or compare with other organizations in their own sector. So another tool called ADMA looked at 7 transformational areas, and it had 2 scanning methodologies. So there was a short scan where an organization was self-assessing, and there were 22 questions there. And then there was a longer version where there was more support from an industry expert. This covered 50 questions. And so about 187 SMEs completed the self-assessment. One or other of the 2 scanning methods, and 69 SMEs prepared a transformational action plan. So here you can see again, the blue line here shows how a particular company's result would look like. The dotted or the dashed red line shows how the company compares with the average from all of the companies that had been assessed up to then. But then it also includes the factory of the future benchmark. So this outer ring here, which is saying that a good factory of the future would have a digitalization level coming out to 0.4 of each of these dimensions or areas. And this then helps in the understanding of where a company is and where it might aspire to move to. So the results then from this, let's say, yeah, there was around 187 SMEs, all of just under 150 employees. And these were the different sectors that responded. And then the average maturity score from the assessments was as follows. So there was a large enough sector between 2.5, and then nearly half were between 2.6 and 3, and then a smaller segment, just over a quarter, were between 3.1 and 3.5. And there is a booklet with the on this link here with more information on the final results in that one. Yeah, so of the 356 proposed innovation actions, 85 actions have been selected by the companies. And again, you can see here, digital factory was a very common or popular focus where companies thought that they would get best value in this area. And the next then was smart manufacturing. So yeah, the focus for the digitalization project or action will of course depend on the type of organization, the type of company, and yeah, so it can vary from organization to organization, but in general, when it's typically a manufacturing company that we're looking at, the digital factory or smart manufacturing probably has seemed to give more initial value for the first type of digitalization big projects to be run in a company, because this will more likely lead to more optimization of the production process, can give improvements in throughput, but also can help with maintenance. If data is can be captured directly from machines, then you can improve reliability and OEE through better knowledge of how machines are operating, and therefore probably have a better overall output and result in value from the implemented project. So yeah, so the majority of the SMEs in that case had chosen the digital factory and smart manufacturing as key focus areas. However, another conclusion is that the eco factory was not considered a top priority, as well as the value chain oriented open factory. Organizations hadn't seen these two as being as relevant for them as the top two, digital factory and smart manufacturing. Again, I guess it's down to the focus of from the business side of an organization, where they put their effort and focus into. So yeah, so I suppose the key learnings from looking at digital maturity assessments and indexes of projects was that advanced manufacturing technology should support an SME's ambitions, not the other way around. A company shouldn't just run a digitalization project because everybody else is doing it. It should be relevant to their specific business needs, and value should be seen right away from a project. Another thing then was seen was that companies need proper support and guidance to be able to transform their manufacturing processes. So initially, they may need support and guidance in order to identify what projects to pick up to start a digital maturity improvement on. And as time goes on, that knowledge becomes more embedded within the organization, and this is needed less and less as time goes on. So the scan or assessment created the right setting and engagement at a company. Subsequent implementation plan made breakthrough transformations become real. So again, identifying the best implementation plan, as in the most relevant plan for that business, helps a lot, because it's important to have quick wins as well too. Even if wins are small with new projects, if staff can see that there is value to this, to digitalization projects, they will be more encouraged to keep doing it and to support it. So the holistic character of the methodology proved to be a key success factor as well. The fact that we're looking at the overall business, not just one specific area. And training is critical in implementing digitalization projects and keeping the projects alive, because, as you all know, factory layouts can change very quickly. And if digitalization projects are dependent on an existing structure or layout of a factory, it's important that they can change as well as the running of the factory itself. So then, yeah, looking then at the outputs of case studies from the ADMA digital maturity assessment, the most important measures towards becoming a factory of the future are creating a vision, continuous improvement of business development, direction, and long-term cooperation with employees and business partners. These are comments that have come from different people who have done these assessments. So the scan gives a clear view of the strengths and weaknesses of our company. From now on, we can focus on what really matters. We are able to profile ourselves as an innovative partner in a difficult market. The tools allow us to see things from a different perspective. The circular economy, sustainability, etc. A lot of companies are really interested in this, and there's a big willingness to change things. So the scan helped us realize that we needed to improve our internal and external communication. The hands-on approach of the coaches and advisors was a major benefit. And SMEs all over Europe have great potential to grow, but we need more support in order to innovate our workplaces. And we need better qualified people for every job position. The education system must be ahead of technological change and not behind it. So here we can see, I suppose, different people within organizations and the value that they have seen from having what we would call a digital maturity assessment or scan. Because what it's doing is it's allowing these people to take a portion of time, maybe it's just an hour or so, to step back from running their business and see how does it compare with others, but what areas within the business can be improved. And the digital maturity index gives people a level of understanding where their organization is in comparison to others on one side, but really there's no point in competing just with others. It's important to improve the position that an organization is from time to time. So if they can look, as we said, the maturity index is a snapshot in time, and when they take this scan, they can see where they are, and by doing innovative digitalization projects, that position will improve over time, and they should then see the value from a business point of view of these projects. Okay, yeah, that's the presentation from my side, and I'm open for anybody with questions to answer any questions you may have. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. I have opened and requested unmute for people who want to ask questions. Thank you so much for insightful presentation on different methods of digital maturity assessments, so that they can identify their index, and they could also identify what is the next step they could take. Till the time people ask questions, I had a couple of questions for you to just discuss upon. You mentioned about multiple methods for DMIs, and you also mentioned about how it is very important for having a vision to start with, how it is important for having customer centricity, And it's a very important thing you mentioned is about stepping back of their daily operations to see and have a bird's eye view of where the organization is going and where it is headed to go, where it is planned to go. And therefore, depending on that, decide upon the next step in digitalization. Uh, the question is how long generally it takes for a company to start with. Say, for example, we talk about an SME because we are focusing on SME. If we talk about SME with 25 to 30 people working in their organization, generally, how long will a digital maturity assessment take for getting to the index? And can they do it themselves, or do they need the support of a third party, like a consultant, to do this?
So in many cases, there are tools where somebody from the organization can just go online and answer questions, and they can get a reasonably quick understanding of where the organization, their own business is within maybe a half an hour, or even less in some cases. The value, I suppose, of working with a consultant or somebody who is knowledgeable in the area is that they can get, I suppose, a wider understanding of how their situation is in from a digital point of view. Sometimes people might think that a system they have isn't relevant, and more times they might actually assign more value to it than it may deserve. But in many cases, I suppose the value of working with an expert in the area is that it gets the person to think a little bit more outside of what their own mindset has. It gets the chance to ask deeper questions than might be just written on an online forum.
Yeah.
But yeah, so typically it could be done within a very detailed one could be done within an hour or two. But yeah.
Right, thanks. We will pause for if anybody has some questions. So people can unmute themselves and they can ask question, or they can share their question on the chat box as well. I'll ask it and then Frank would reply. Great. So one question which comes to my mind is when people are doing this digital maturity assessment, it's most of the times we have seen that it is perception oriented. For example, one person, if he does it for the first time, the scores might be different from at the same scan at that point of time, which if the DMA is done by somebody else from the same company. So how is this taken care of, and what kind of suggestions do you have to tell people for making it more simpler, and which kind of a digital maturity index tool you would suggest for SMEs to start with, so that it becomes simpler for them to start and then progress?
I suppose just as you mentioned, if different people within an organization do a digital maturity index or an assessment, you will get different results, because if the IT manager in a medium or even small size organization is doing it, they may they may say that their system is better than other people within the same organization may feel it is. So depending on the person who is doing the assessment, what part of the organization they come from, they can have a different perception as to the quality of the digital systems in place in an organization. As I mentioned earlier, it is a snapshot in time, and I suppose to try and keep the assessment consistent, if one is done later on, it would be nice to have the same person do it. But the idea, I suppose, that if you can work with an expert or a consultant, somebody outside the organization, you could then hopefully have a more uniform understanding of the different impact of different elements of the data flow within an organization. So if it's paper-based, if there's barcode scanning or RFID scanning, whatever it is, that the data capture systems and in place in an organization can be weighted, I suppose, more consistently. But at the same time, if one person does an online assessment on their own, as long as they use the same strategy, if they look at a different online system, they should hopefully get some level of consistency that way.
There's a question from Maria. She basically is, it's a kind of question continuing to our previous question. She asks, is the questionnaire an answer only by one person, or multiple people can sit together and answer the question?
Oh yeah, multiple people could sit together. If somebody felt that they didn't have overall understanding of the different systems within an organization, yeah, it would make sense that more than one person could sit in on it. I suppose what is important is that whoever is doing the assessment does have a reasonable understanding of the different systems in place in an organization, understand how data is I suppose captured, whether it's paper-based and how it's processed throughout the organization, and then how that data, once captured, is analyzed and used. And if one person has this understanding, then that's fine. And if somebody thinks, oh, I know my area, but I have gaps in another area, then yeah, it makes sense to bring somebody else from another area where gaps in, let's say, the finance department or marketing or something like this can be filled by another person.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. Yeah, like when we were doing some assessments previously, it always helped to have different perspectives from different departments, so that a bird's eye view of how each department is coming together to get this change done. That comes to the next question of mine, actually, about you stressed upon in each of these radar charts of which gives us the score. There was a very key element of change management and people's involvement in it. Some people called people involvement. Some of the charts said change management. There was a project you mentioned about change to twin or change to win. So could you please stress upon some of your learnings in terms of how the engaged team of people who participated in the maturity index is really helpful in terms of bringing in the change and transformation?
Okay, so the challenge, I suppose, isn't so much the digital maturity assessment or the resulting index value, but the project or the digitalization project that is about to be implemented in an organization in order to improve the company's abilities from a business point of view. And what we have seen is that companies' digitalization projects can fail, that's for sure. But the places where the best success has been seen is where, first of all, you have support by leadership, and so that's to give the message to the organization, yes, we're going to implement this digital strategy, but then the operators of the people who it directly involves, ideally, if they can be involved in the design of the change required from data processing, data capture, if they need to change how they behave. So if they currently have to do paper-based activities or log in via multiple screens into a system to record production data or scrap data, whatever, if they can be involved in the design of new systems, not the implementation, but on the design of it, there is a greater chance that they will accept it and work with it rather than against the new implementation when that happens. So yeah, that's, I suppose, where we have seen the greatest successes, where you have good leadership and involvement with all staff that are impacted by the change. And then for the continuation of projects, ideally an SME will have access to an IT consultant company, or will have hired people themselves to keep the project alive and progress and growing.
Yeah. Thanks, Frank. We'll pause again. If somebody is interested for questions, people can unmute themselves or post their questions on the chat box and we will address them. Okay. So I think one of the questions which comes to my mind is, okay, when we look at these exercises of digital maturity index or digital maturity assessment, it looks more theoretical. Could you share an example of your recent one, maybe change to twin as well, of how doing a digital maturity assessment or indexing helped the company identify or pinpoint that first one thing they have to do, they have to start, which they didn't know earlier?
Okay, so with one particular company, when we started the assessment, the managing director said, yeah, we know what we need to do. So they figured that they wanted automated production scheduling, and they could see where that could give a lot of value. This was in a precision engineering company. But when we actually walked through the digital maturity assessment and looked at the different types of projects that could be run, it turned out that they would get a lot more value from digitalizing paper-based activities, where production data, scrap data, the time, running time of machines, where that was previously captured on whiteboards, maybe 3-4 times a day. And this data then was captured using tablets and barcode scanners. And this, while it wasn't as big a project as the production scheduling automation, it gave a very quicker turnaround and people on the floor could see the value. So there was a lot of satisfaction in that direction. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Frank. I think the one question, the one which just comes to my mind, in fact, I am having more questions. One question which comes to my mind is that for a startup or for a company which is just like, again, example of an SME with just 20-25 people working, can they start with something simpler? Because I could understand that each of these digital maturity assessments or indexing are at different levels in the sense of detailing. So some could have multiple sub questions, like the one which you showed for the change to twin was extremely detailed. For the company to begin with something, can they choose one kind of a digital maturity assessment, model? And after some time, when they start really improving, can they shift to the other kind of maturity indexing?
Yeah, look at that. That makes sense. I suppose get a high level bird's eye view of where the organization is makes sense. And then once people in the organization get more familiar with technologies, tools, and systems like that, it makes sense to go a little bit deeper. Yeah. Vladimir, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. We are all promoting like digitalization is a key tool to go green.
Yeah.
But here we have like eco-factory not sort of high priority in this regard. So this is somehow strange to me. Can you elaborate on this sort of outcome?
I suppose the challenges with the eco-factory and the sustainability side of things is that people are still putting more focus on how their business, I suppose, keeping the business alive, getting more profitability, getting more throughput, keeping machines up and running and improving OEE. And when they are, I suppose, when they're small businesses, they're under stress to keep alive with competition. They may have an appreciation of environmental issues, but it's not the focus. I suppose the idea is, if it's a very green company and it goes out of business, it's not much good. So yes, there is a little bit more focus on the green eco side of things with the larger organizations, where they have the I suppose, the comfort of a larger business, and they are starting to look for better, I suppose, marketing. They use the eco factory and the sustainability side of things as marketing, but they're also that is changing, because the multinationals are now needing to track their suppliers' sustainability impact. You know, so the impact of production is being pushed back to the smaller companies. So yeah, I suppose it's a case of they're trying to make more money before they worry about how green they are.
Okay,
can I just ask, where are you coming from, and how have you found that where you are?
I'm from construction cluster of Slovenia. I'm partner of xBUILD project. So
okay,
and we are dealing with green transition, circular economy projects, and that's why that came as strange to me.
Great. Thank you
But
so
I
much.
understood. Yeah, actually, the young companies, startups have to think on the primary business first, and then if this is not sort of green one, they have to earn money and then think on going green.
yeah.
So
Thank you so much. Yeah, sorry to interrupt, because we are just about time, and we really are happy and thankful to all of you for great participation. And if you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch with us. And we look forward for the next webinar soon with all your participation. Thanks again, Vladimir and Maria and everybody for the questions and also for the active participation. Have a great day ahead. See you all. See you in a while.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Frank. Thank you.